Right. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today for this third event of the AQMx webinar series, where we'll be discussing the new sectoral guidance that was launched by the CCAC last month, as well as hear about success stories from key partners. So my name is Juliette Laurent. I'm an air quality specialist at the Climate and Clean Air Coalition Secretariat, and I'll be your moderator for today's session. So we know that open waste burning is a widespread issue and really a symptom of failing waste management system, which really has severe health and environmental impacts. So today we'll discuss how open waste burning can be eliminated by understanding the local drivers, identifying hotspots, but also crucially by providing households and institutions with accessible and affordable waste collection and recycling systems, and also supporting informal workers to ensure that this transition can really provide economic opportunities to all while ensuring social and gender equity. So we'll start today by doing a deep dive on the AQMx sectoral guidance on open waste burning, which provides practical and hands-on recommendations on how countries or cities can really eliminate open waste burning. We will also hear about inspiring success stories from our partners at Engineering X, IGES, Practical Action, as well as Systemic and Green Life Africa. So just a point of housekeeping, we'll have time for Q&A towards the end of the session. So if you have any question to speakers, please either just write them in the chat or say them towards the end of the session. And also note that we will be recording this webinar and that the recording will be made available on the CCAC website. So before we go into the details of the sectoral guidance on open waste burning, I just wanted to give you a brief introduction to the AQMx platform. So AQMx stands for the Air Quality Management Exchange Platform, and it aims to be a global one-stop shop for knowledge and guidance on air quality management. So this was launched by the CCAC on International Clean Air Day of 2024, following a mandate of member states who called for the development of such a knowledge platform in the UNEA 610 resolution. And so on AQMx, you will find three main components. The first one is a resource library with more than 1,400 trusted resources to support air quality managers. So you'll find anything from tools and models to databases, reports, and scientific publications. And this AQMx library is periodically updated as new knowledge products become available. And I also encourage you to get in touch with the CCAC if you would like to suggest additional resources for this library. The second key component on AQMx is the air quality management guidance, which covers 8 different areas from air quality monitoring to emissions inventories, health impact assessment, legal framework, and so on. And this air quality management guidance is structured around 5 stages of engagement, really to support air quality managers on their clean air journey as they strengthen their capacity. So stages 1, 2, and 3 are already available on the AQMx platform, and stages 4 and 5 will be launched on International Clean Air Day of this year, so in September. And the last component, of course, is the sectoral guidance. And this was really a key ask from the AQMx user community, who highlighted the need for practical guidance on sectoral mitigation policies to reduce air pollution at the source. And we really see the sectoral guidance as the implementation guide to the SLCP reduction measures that were identified in the CCAC integrated assessments. So on the margins of the UN Environmental Assembly back in December, we launched 4 sectoral guidance packages. So for waste management, of course, but also for the agricultural sector, looking at alternatives to crop residue burning, the household energy sector on expanding access to e-cooking, and the road transport on improving fuel quality. So this process was led by the CCAC Secretariat, but I really want to acknowledge the contribution of the CCAC sectoral hubs members who were actively involved in the review process, and I want to thank them again for their valuable inputs. And just to let you know as well that additional sectoral guidance covering new areas will be developed over the course of 2026. So stay tuned to learn more. And now I'll stop this quick introduction and give the floor to Lucy Stevens, who is the open waste burning expert who led the development of this AQMx sectoral guidance and who will give you an in-depth presentation of the content and key recommendation. So Lucy, please go ahead.
Great, thanks so much, Juliet, and hello everyone. During this webinar, we've got two main aims. The first is to give you a flavour of the contents of the guidance, highlighting some of the excellent resources that it brings together. And secondly, to give you a demonstration, which Juliet's going to help us with, of how to navigate this online resource. As you'll see, that's very, very straightforward, but it's always useful to have a few pointers on that. So Juliet is now on the guidance, which is on the web page. So you'll also be able to find that link. So the guidance is designed to be quite short and concise and give really practical pointers for air quality managers, policymakers, and other implementers at both local and national levels. CCAC's primary goal is for the AQMx to be a one-stop shop for those seeking to take action on open waste burning. So AQMx brings together guidance, tools, data, and real-world examples that are otherwise scattered across multiple sites, organizations, and reports. And the guidance organizes these resources into a logical step-by-step framework. Okay, so here we are on the guidance landing page. And firstly, to just talk a little bit about the structure of the guidance. You'll see that it's organized into sections. And actually, you can think of this in 5 blocks. The first is about why take action, and then you have 10 steps. And then you have 3 other blocks, one about how to finance, one about gender and equity considerations, and finally, a selection of 6 success stories, which explore different contexts and types of action, how this worked in reality. Users of the AQMx open waste burning guidance, you don't need to follow every step sequentially because different steps may be more relevant depending on whether you're working at national or local levels. Many cities or countries will already be working on some of these steps. So what this guidance does is help you to see what you might be missing and connects you directly to useful tools and resources. Okay, great. So just a couple of points about navigation while we're here. This guidance is basically one long web page with sections that expand and collapse. So if you click on any of these headings, it takes you down the page to that section. So now we've clicked on why take action. But if you want to go back to the table of contents, there's an up arrow at the bottom right there, and that takes you back up the page. Or you can just scroll up and down using your up and down arrow. That's how that's working. Okay, brilliant. So we'll go, we're now going to give you a bit more of a tour of the guidance and pick out some of the key supporting resources along the way. So we'll go to the first section about why take action. Lovely. Now, many of you are very aware of why taking action on open waste burning is so important. However, we also know that some of the quite dense academic papers are pretty hard work and sometimes a bit contradictory in terms of numbers they come up with. So in this section, we aim to do the hard work for you and compile the most up-to-date statistics and references to help you make your case for why to take action. A couple of other things to notice here in terms of navigation. So each of these subsections has a heading, and if you click anywhere in that box, then the text will expand, and click it again and it will collapse for you. Great. So a second point is that you'll see that there are references to reports or data in the text in blue font, like, for example, the UNEP 2020-2024 that you can see there. So that's the Global Waste Management Outlook. Now, a copy of every paper or report has been saved to the AQMx library. So when you click on that text, it opens a new tab on your browser for the reference. And as we've got here, so that gives you a brief description, and you can also then open the full report by clicking the download button, which also, helpfully, if the document is available in different languages, you'll be able to choose your preferred option here. When you click on the language that you've chosen, it will open in a third tab. Great, so that's how you navigate that. Now, you can go back to the content by going back to the just going back to the other tab on your browser. So carrying on with some of the content, and going to the section on the contribution of open waste burning to air pollution and climate change. Looking into this data and research reminded me that while open waste burning does make an important contribution to the commonly measured indicators of air quality like black carbon, particulate matter, and so on. But what sets it apart from other sources of air pollution really is the toxicity of that pollution, air, land and water. And I'm hoping we can make sure that people are on mute, because it's going to be difficult for everyone to hear. Okay. To the toxicity of that pollution. So this toxicity, it really has devastating impacts on people, environments living closest to open burning sites, particularly impacting women, especially during pregnancy, children and the elderly, and informal waste workers who have very high levels of exposure. And these points about gender and equity are weaved throughout the guidance, and also they have their own section, as I highlighted further on. Okay, so supporting resources. At the end of each of these main sections, you'll find supporting resources. And this is where we have curated a smaller selection of documents, which are the best and most respected references for this section. So these supporting resources are reports, but also practical guides, toolkits, data sources. So yeah, to view the resources, you click on the box that says show supporting resources, and then you can hide them with the other button. Now, please also do pay attention to the arrow that points to the right of the screen, in case there might be additional resources right and left that you can't see all in one go on the screen. And also, just as for the references in the text, all reports here are stored in the AQMx library, so you're not having to navigate away to another website generally. So you open them in the same way as we've already seen. Clicking on any of the resources will open a summary page, download to open the resource itself. Yeah. Okay, great. So hopefully you're now getting a sense of how to navigate the page, expand and collapse the sections, access the linked resources. So on with a bit more of the content. And now we're moving to the steps for action. So this part of the guidance is a set of 10 steps. For each step, you'll see a summary of what that step is in the italic text in the box. And Juliet will help us to expand step 1. So you can do that by clicking anywhere in that box. Okay, so this is about a baseline assessment. This section covers what data and insights you will want to gather before taking action. So you'll want to find out, for example, the extent of open burning in your locality, where it is occurring, who is burning waste, and what are their reasons for the practice, remembering that this will certainly have gender and equity dimensions to it, and who is most severely impacted. Now, we're all aware that accurate current data on citywide waste management are very hard to find. So we have got some guidance and advice here depending on whether local data are or are not available, pointing you to some global data set that you could use as guides or proxies to at least estimate what the situation is likely to be. If we just scroll down a little bit further, you will see, yeah, let's stop there. Okay, you'll see that we've got some of these little boxes in the text for AQMx guidance on air quality monitoring or on source attribution. So those links will take you to a new tab, which takes you to that part of the AQMx guidance on, for example, air quality monitoring, which is general guidance, not specific to open waste management, about how do you monitor air quality or do source attribution. So it's useful to highlight that is that other part of the AQMx guidance. Okay, so and one more thing about navigation. There are some links within the guidance that are for data sources or online toolkits. And so for those, you might be navigating away from the AQMx website and onto that external website. So for example, I wanted to highlight the UN Habitat database and also the GIZ waste flow diagram databases, which are very useful resources. So if we click on that GIZ waste flow diagram link and then download, one more click to open it, it opens that website, the database, in a new tab. Now here we have, if we scroll down a bit, a map where we've got 150 plus cities and 24 countries where studies have been done about waste flows in those cities. So it's a really useful resource. That's opened itself in a new tab. You can go back to the tab where you have the guidance open. Great. Okay, so we're moving on to step 2, which is about institutional arrangements. So once we've established done our baseline, established the extent of the problem, where it's occurring and why, that the step that many of our success stories took was to create a local multi-stakeholder task force or committee. We've pointed readers in the guidance to the relevant success stories in the text. So you'll see if in the section which says create a local multi-stakeholder and task force or committee, there's a little part that says see success story 2 on Kisumu and 3 on Nairobi. So that can give you some pointers if you want to go down to the bottom, when you want to read up more about that in the success stories at the end of the guidance. In this step also, we have got some headings where there are actions at both local and national levels, which are important. So convening and support at the national level gives additional weight and legitimacy to local actions. And we'll hear a bit more about that in the next part of the webinar. Okay, so supporting resources. If we open the supporting resources for this step, again, you'll see that we've curated a selection for you. Some of these are local examples. For example, the SOWU report is an example from Uganda, and the guidelines for the eradication of open burning are from Indonesia, and that's an example we'll hear more about later. Others of these reports here are more comprehensive guides, and you might see the same guide or report appearing as a supporting resource for more than one step. Now, that's the case, for example, for the US EPA Best Practices Guide for Solid Waste Management. That guide has a section on stakeholder engagement, which is why we've listed it here under step 2. But it also has a good section on planning, which is why it reappears and it's listed as a resource under step 3 for planning and design. So that's just a little bit more about how we have curated some of these resources. Okay, so moving on to step 3, planning and design. Now, the foundation of success in eliminating open waste burning has to be a strong locally owned action plan, which can translate the baseline findings into concrete goals, objectives, and actions. The plan needs to assign responsibilities, identify partnerships, and establish financing strategies. And it's worth emphasizing here that as part of the institutional arrangements, and again, in defining the plan, it is crucial that informal waste providers have a voice and that women's voices from communities are heard alongside those of men, because they are such key actors who are going to help you to solve those problems. If we open the supporting resources, following this run through, we'll be hearing from the AQMx team on the Regional Roadmap for Africa and the Kisumu City Action Plan, which are here as supporting resources. Also worth highlighting in terms of the plan that a range of stakeholders can take action on open waste burning, not just the kind of traditional waste stakeholders. So, for example, there's a guide here from EARWAG on planning for zero waste in schools and what action schools might be able to take. Lovely. So step 4 is about policy integration. We're all aware that issues of air pollution and waste management touch many different ministries and agencies. So integrating the issue of open waste burning into other policy areas can be a big help for mobilizing action. Governments have also signed up to regional and global commitments, and we'll hear in a moment about recent regional agreements in Africa and South Asia. Julia, if you want to expand the text for step 4 for me. So towards the bottom here, you'll see a list of some of these commitments that governments have signed up to that can be they can be usefully reminded of, like the Stockholm Convention on Persistent Organic Pollutants, which is really relevant for plastic burning. Thanks. Okay, moving on to step 5, which is about standards and regulation. This section is a reminder that standards and regulations can apply across the waste value chain, all the way from reducing waste in the first place to ensuring safe and inclusive working conditions. So the bullet points and supporting resources here give some specific examples of those standards and regulations, which might be useful resources for you to see what others have done. Okay, so moving to step 6, which is about communication and awareness raising. Now, when I was talking to people about their success stories, a very clear message was that any actions that have been planned have to be backed up by a well-resourced awareness raising and behaviour change strategy. Because often people burn waste with the very good intention of trying to keep their neighbourhood clean and reducing pests, reducing the piles of waste, and that's in the absence of workable alternatives. So there are lots of inspiration in this section and the success stories for how to do this behaviour change and awareness raising really well. The principles to apply, the range of communication channels that are available. And of course, this is another place where being aware of gender dimensions is particularly crucial to success of your awareness raising and behaviour change campaigns. In the supporting resources, I wanted to flag up the ICLE guide for local governments, which is really particularly useful for people who want to delve into this more deeply, with lots of further examples contained in that guide. Great. Step 7. Step 7 is where action actually happens on implementation. And as you can imagine, there's a lot that could be said about implementation, where plans are actually put into action. And at the same time, the actions that are going to be useful depend a lot on the context. So the guidance here is organised in terms of different contexts. For example, where there is an absence of comprehensive waste collection service. But also another context might be that where waste is collected, but it's burned before it reaches the final disposal sites, or again, where it's collected and it does reach the final disposal site, but it's burned there. So, and finally, there are some actions that are likely to be relevant everywhere. One resource I would like to highlight here is the Flip-Floppy Toolkit. This toolkit's an online resource. It's written in bite-sized chunks, and it's based on the experience in plastic recycling of the Flip-Floppy project based on the northern part of the Kenyan coast. If we scroll down the page to what's in the toolkit, it really is a treasure trove for local organisations looking to work in waste collection, separation and value for plastics. So I just wanted to highlight that as a resource for you. Okay, jumping back again to the guidance. Great. The final 3 steps of the guidance are on enforcement, capacity building, and monitoring and evaluation. In the interest of time, I'm not going to go into those in detail now. And we're going to jump to the block on how to finance the elimination of open waste burning. So yeah, this is one of two more substantive sections before we reach the success stories. So yeah, securing the finances for implementing an improved waste management plan can feel like a huge obstacle, but don't be discouraged. This section organizes the guidance into some background information and then categorizes actions and how to finance them into no cost, low cost, and high cost measures. And for each section, there are suggestions for different financing strategies. So if we open the low cost or operational measures, there are suggestions for local mobilization of funds and for additional sources of finance from things like EPR systems, plastic or carbon credits, as well as some words of caution about the long-term costs and benefits of particular strategies. In terms of supporting resources, you'll find the supporting resources here particularly useful for navigating what can feel like an intimidating and confusing area. And a lot of these really take you through some of the basics of different financing options and the sort of landscape for financing. Okay, the next block on gender and socioeconomic equity considerations. As I've mentioned all the way through, issues of gender and equity are there throughout the guidance, and they're also then spotlighted in this section. For both gender and equity, the guidance sets out why these issues are important and what types of targeted action can be taken. In terms of gender, I think the success story that we'll see in a minute from the Dominican Republic is particularly important on mainstreaming gender. So do take a look at that. In terms of equity, the guidance focuses on integration of the informal sector. So it highlights actions such as strengthening protections, introducing simple registration schemes, and ensuring proper representation of the informal sector. Tackling open waste burning will mean going beyond seeing the informal sector as part of the problem, because maybe they're responsible for doing some burning of waste. So they're not seeing them as the problem, but as a fundamental part of the solution for better waste management and recycling systems. And in that light, in the supporting resources, we have the waste picker integration guideline from South Africa, which is a particularly useful and powerful resource, written really strongly in collaboration and guided by the informal sector. There's also the ISWA toolkit for facilitators for women in informal recycling and their capacity building, which is also another really useful resource which brings together these gender and equity considerations and is a useful training toolkit. Okay, the very final section, we're reaching the end now, is the success stories, where we've got 6 examples here covering different contexts, showcasing points made in different aspects of the guidance. And we'll be hearing from a couple of those in a minute from Indonesia and from Kisumu. If we just look at if we expand the one on the Maldives. So each success story, it briefly sets out the context, what was done, and a few key takeaways. There aren't any supporting resources here, but within each of the stories, you'll find a link, a hyperlink, which will take you to a fuller case study or a write-up from that success story. Okay, so as we wrap up, just wanted to thank the many expert reviewers who have supported the production of this guidance. It's really been a pleasure to engage with all of you as we've been putting this together. We can use the little up arrow again to jump back up to the top of the page. It's our hope that the AQMx sectoral guidance will be a relevant and adaptable tool for you to start to tackle open waste burning in the countries in which you work. The guidance, it's not meant to be read cover to cover. Please just dive in to whichever step you're at or whichever issue you feel like you might need further support on. We're really interested to hear your feedback about the guidance and about how CCSE can continue to support policymakers and implementers. So during the Q&A and through follow-up channels, we welcome your feedback and also your thoughts on what additional guidance, tools or case studies would be most useful for you. Thanks very much for the run through, Juliet. Great job in helping with that. Back to you. Thanks very much.
Thank you so much, Lucy. That was a very clear and thorough presentation. I'm sure users really got a sense of how you can apply and use this AQMx guidance to your own work. And I also want to really stress what Lucy was just saying about please sharing your feedback and your suggestions for additional content that we could develop on AQMx in the future. Right, so now we will move to the second part of this webinar, during which we will hear about real-world success stories from key stakeholders in the open waste burning field, who will tell us about best practices and on-the-ground case studies. And to begin with, we'll give the floor to Charlie Fenn from AQMx, Joel Ombok from Practical Action, and Mio Hayashi from IGES, the great team behind the regional roadmaps for the elimination of open waste burning. So please go ahead.
Thank you so much. So hi, everyone. I'm Charlie Fenn. I'm the Senior Manager of Waste at AQMx. And AQMx is a growing collaboration founded by the Royal Academy of Engineering and Lloyd's Register Foundation that promotes the role of engineering in tackling safety and sustainability challenges by building global connections across sectors and disciplines. So we've heard a lot from Lucy on the about the challenges of open burning, why it's such an urgent issue, and some of the challenges associated with addressing it as well. And the AQMx provides a great global resource to taking action in ending open burning. I'm now going to give a background to another CCAC funded project that worked towards creating the enabling conditions for eliminating open burning of waste, really focusing on the regional level. So we did it through regional roadmaps and city pilots. So myself and Joel Ombok from Practical Action will talk on the Africa example, and Miho Hayashi, from IGES will speak to the Asia example. So just a quick bit of background. So the consortium was built on existing relationships between these partners on the slide. We've been working together, building global momentum around open burning in several different ways since 2020 and the publication of the Global Review on Safer End of Engineered Life, which was also on the AQMx resource library. So this resulted in the first mention of open burning on the high-level agenda at COP26, with the issue gaining more and more traction, notably with ISWA having waste and resources pavilions at recent COPs, as well as the general growing attention for waste management with a big focus on methane and black carbon reduction. So a bit about the project. So the project aims to produce 3 regional roadmaps on transformative action to end open burning of waste in Africa, Asia, and Latin America, with each roadmap piloted in at least 1 city per region. And so in order to embed the roadmaps and city action plans in evidence, UN Habitat conducted regional emissions estimates from open burning and city-level emissions analysis using the WasteWise Cities tools, the WACT, which Lucy also mentioned and is available on the AQMx website. This was accompanied by a piece of work to assess the funding of waste globally, led by Practical Action, which is also on the resource library on AQMx. So as you can see from the map, IGES are leading the Asia work, ISWA for Latin America, and for Africa, AQMx coordinated the roadmap, which was led by Professor Dessa Mbaratu, and Practical Action leading the Kisumu City Action Plan, which is in partnership with Kisumu City itself. I don't know if we could just... So to come to the Africa example, so as I said, we aim to produce 3 regional roadmaps, with each roadmap being piloted 1 city per region. Oh, sorry, I haven't moved on. That's why. So it aimed to work with governments at national and local level to strengthen their capacity to reduce their emissions from open burning and therefore contribute to cleaner air, a healthier population, the creation of economic opportunities, and in taking urgent climate action. So this aims to be done through the development of regional approaches that are based on national needs and tailored to cities, so actors can implement contextually appropriate solutions to address open burning at the relevant governmental level. So the Africa Roadmap and the Kisumu City Action Plan are available on the CCAC website and also in the AQMx resource library, and I can share the links to those afterwards. And there are also stakeholder-specific briefs for national government, local government, and finance institutions available there as well. The Africa Roadmap is broken down into the introduction, the why, the what, which lays out the transformative action framework, which Joel will touch on in his presentation, and the how, which includes planning models, information on financing and budgeting, and monitoring frameworks that can be applied to different contexts. So looking at the translating regional to the local from the Africa perspective. So this project was built on existing global and regional momentum, as well as political ambition. And it really aims to translate that regional commitment to local implementation. So for Africa in 2022, the African Ministerial Conference on Environment Resolution was passed following a series of advocacy activities. This demonstrated really good regional commitment that then initiated the multi-stakeholder partnership to end open burning, which aims to deliver the AMSEN resolution and coordinate regional action. So then the roadmap was developed through building a body of evidence through emissions estimates, literature reviews, regional surveys, and a series of stakeholder consultations, including with UNEP Africa, which holds the African Ministerial Conference on Environment. So then the roadmap was piloted at city level, and again, Joelle will deep dive into that in a moment. And then in July 2025, we presented the findings and learnings from the roadmap and city action plan at AMSEN, which then resulted in its endorsement, therefore continuing their regional and national government commitment to ending open burning. So this feedback loop aims to communicate local realities and activities to the national and regional level in order to continue the momentum and political ambition, as well as demonstrate actionable pathways to impact and create a demand for finance for waste management that can then trickle back down to local implementation. So I'll now pass to Joelle, who will speak on the City Action Plan.
Thank you, Charlie. Yes, my name is Joel Lombok from Practical Action in Kisumu. Yes, Kisumu is the third largest city in Kenya. It's a trading hub and also a transport hub, but with low financial resources. Kisumu City is located in Kisumu County, and the county has a devolved function for waste policy and budgeting. The city delivers waste services through provision of skips, conducting street cleaning, disposal sites, constructing MRFs, and so on. We also have private operators, both formal and informal, who provide waste services in the city. Next. Next, Charlie. Yes, as you can see, the Kisumu City waste flow, only 12% of waste is collected out of the 272 tons of waste that is produced every day. Yes, and from the data, this is the worked data that was produced by UN Habitat. You can see that at least 23 tons of waste is burnt per day. Yeah, next. Yes, so we embarked in the development of the City Action Plan, and we set up a multi-stakeholder committee that came up with the action plan. But it largely borrowed from the regional roadmap. And next bit. The action plan, we had three major objectives. We had three foundational objectives. We had 4 operational objectives, and one cross-cutting objective, which was the engagement of the stakeholders. In these objectives, we had we divided the specific functions in each of these objectives into no-cost actions, low-cost actions, and investment actions, as you'll see in the next slide. Yes, as per the types of action, the no-cost actions were actions which can be paid for by the existing county budgets, or by the existing budgets, by the budgets that exist with other stakeholders. The low-cost actions are actions which require new and additional budgets, but below the levels that could be funded through the major investments. And we had investment actions. These are actions that require significant investments through a combination of public funds and grants. I'll give you a few examples in the next slide. For the no-cost actions, we had activities like partnering with schools, churches, communities, and encouraging the businesses to reduce, to recycle, and to adopt the circular economy principles. Those are some of the no-cost actions. They don't require any funds. Yes. Then for the low-cost actions, we were looking at activities around policy and legislations, enhancing policy and regulatory frameworks, including open waste banning in county management legislations. Those were actions that, they had some budgets in the county, or they were allocated some budgets by the county, so they don't require major investments. As for the investment actions, the next slide. These are actions that require significant investment, like integrated waste management, promoting uptake on the collection services. So some of the activities here, construction and equipping of the community recycling centers. In Kisumu, last year alone, the county added two more MRFs. So those are some of the examples of the investment actions that we can include here. Next slide. Yes, so for the success of the city action plan, we had a very, very strong and committed leadership from the county and from the city. I mentioned earlier that we had a multi-stakeholder technical committee. That committee was chaired by the City Department of Environment, and they were very much committed convening the meetings, inviting and mobilizing all the stakeholders. So the success came from that committed and strong leadership from the city authorities. They were also mobilizing and availing the resources. For example, I mentioned some of the no-cost actions up there, like the provision of the PPEs, provision of vehicles when we are doing the cleaning, when we are doing the cleanups. The city could provide us with all that. So mobilizing and availing their resources also led to the success of the city action plan. Then there was strong coordination, as I've said, stakeholder participation, and including all the stakeholders, and most importantly, the local waste workers. The city department and the county have recognized the local waste workers, the informal waste workers, as part of their team. They are recognized, and in any meeting, they are being invited. They are inviting all cohorts of people, women, people with disability, and there's that strong coordination. So there is also buy-in from political leaders, like the members of county assembly. So this gives us the impetus in the implementation. Then at the city level and at the county level, and even the academia, which also form part of our stakeholders, this technical capacity, and support that we derive from this multi-stakeholder team. Then there's also alignment with the county and city priorities. Yes, most of the actions that we included as low cost and no cost, and even the investment actions, are aligned with the city priorities. I mentioned earlier that the city last year, they added 2 MRFs. That is an investment action that has been delivered by the government, by the city. Yeah, so there's that alignment. Yeah, and so the activities that we included as no-cost, low-cost, and investment are also enabled us to have some of the quick wins. Yeah, so like behavior change communications. When we go on radio to pass the messages on dangers of open burning of waste. Yeah, so some of these low-cost actions enable us to achieve the quick wins that also ensured the success of the city action plan. Yeah. Next. Yeah. So thank you so much, and that is what we have in Kisumu. Yeah. Back to you, Charlie.
Yes, I think over to me here.
Yes, thank you very much, Charlie. So my name is Miho Hayashi. Hi, everyone. I'm a program manager from Institute for Global Environmental Strategies. So as Charlie mentioned, IJUS has been developing the Asia roadmap, which is about to be published, and I hope that this roadmap will be also uploaded in AQMx website soon. Today, in my presentation, I'm not going to explain about the Asian roadmap itself, but I will highlight how the regional commitment is obtained through the roadmap development process and how it is translated into the local action. And I will also talk about how the AQMx sectoral guidance will support the implementation of the roadmap. Next, please. Next, please. So I show you the two photos that I took in Lahore, Pakistan. I took it in October when I visited. And then it's daytime, but the sky was very smoky. And I asked my local partner whether it happens. And she answered that for the last couple of years, and particularly this season. And she also mentioned that the pollutants come from India. So as you, next please. As you see the map in the slide, this map shows the level of waste burned in Asia. And you see a lot of waste is burned in China, India, a more populated area. And this causes air pollution and also impact on the climate. And the smoke and the pollutants, such as black carbon, which is one of the SLCPs, travel across the city boundary and also national borders, which means that local action alone is not sufficient. In Asia, regional political commitment has played a critical role in legitimizing the open waste burning as a priority issue. Next, please. So a practical example of how regional commitment is built through the roadmap development is Kathmandu Declaration. This declaration was issued in September last year at the Regional Policy Dialogue, organized by IJUS in collaboration with Gaia and the government of Nepal, also with financial and technical support from CCAC. This declaration did not emerge overnight. It was the result of structured regional policy dialogue process, grounded in country baseline studies, technical analysis, and shared experiences from cities and islands. What made this process effective was inclusiveness. We invited government officials from different sectors, including waste management, air quality, and the climate sectors. We also invited researchers and the practitioners. They are all involved. The dialogue emphasized real implementation challenges, financing, enforcement, informal workers, and the behavior change. So the declaration reflects practical realities rather than abstract commitments. As a result, the Kathmandu Declaration now serves as a political anchor, helping countries and cities in South Asia justify reforms, mobilize resources, and align national actions with a shared regional vision. Next, please. So here, let me briefly explain how AQMx will support the implementation of the Asia roadmap. First, AQMx will help translate regional political commitments into practical action. Declaration and roadmap set the direction, whereas AQMx turns these commitments into clear sector-specific guidance that countries and cities can actually implement. Second, AQMx enables regional alignment and peer learning. As you saw during Lucy's presentation, it provides a shared technical reference. It helps countries harmonize approach, reduce fragmentation, and learn from each other's experience in addressing open waste burning. Third, AQMx supports city-level implementation at scale. Since many open waste burning solutions happen locally, AQMx focuses on real implementation challenges faced by cities and provides practical steps and tools that help move from small pilots to a broader action. And then lastly, AQMx strengthens the shared accountability by promoting to develop common guidance and indicators through monitoring and evaluation framework. That helps countries track progress collectively and reinforcing regional responsibility for clean air and the health outcomes. So I'm quite excited to use this tool. So looking ahead, IGC is working with Global Methane Hub and also SACEP, which is an intergovernmental organization established by South Asian countries to develop a regional methane reduction roadmap for South Asia. So even though this project focuses more on methane, but I hope that this work will integrate open waste burning issue and its solutions into this methane roadmap, recognizing the importance of reducing both methane and black carbon emissions from the waste sector, alongside the pilot activities on composting and also improved landfill management. So I'm very excited to use this AQMx guidance. Thank you very much.
Right, thank you so much, Miho, Joel, Charlie, for your presentation. It's really exciting to see the regional roadmaps being launched, and also great to hear to see alignment with the AQMx guidance. So thank you again for your presentation. Our next speaker was supposed to be Mike Webster from Systemic, who was going to tell us about a great project they've been implementing in Indonesia, the STOP project. So unfortunately, I think Mike has not been able to join us due to unforeseen circumstances, but we'll make sure to share his presentation with you after the webinar if you are interested. So I think we can move to our next speaker now. So I'd like to introduce Darius Barole, who is the Waste Africa Regional Coordinator for Green Life Africa. And who will tell us about a new exciting project that they are implementing in Liberia with CCAC support. So Darius, you can go ahead and I'll share your slides now.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. My name is Darius Barole. This presentation is titled Liberia, Develop a Waste Sector Strategy that Reduces Emissions of Black Carbon from Open Burning. You will see the map of Liberia on the left. We are neighboring Sierra Leone, Guinea, and Cote d'Ivoire in West Africa. Next slide, please. Yes, a little about Green Life. We work in Liberia, Sierra Leone, and Ghana, focusing on low emissions development, coastal resilience, forest conservation and restoration, climate smart agriculture, and rural livelihood improvement. Our vision is to have a West Africa region with protected and restored natural habitats, with streams, rivers, and the Atlantic Ocean clean, ensuring healthy living conditions and improved livelihood. Our mission, through global and community partnerships, facilitate access to knowledge and resources necessary for improved quality of life through the protection of the environment. Next. Okay, this project is funded by the Climate and Clean Air Coalition. of the United Nations Environment Program. The aim is to reduce black carbon emissions from open burning in Monrovia and Painesville, Liberia's two largest urban centers. So Monrovia is the capital city of Liberia, and Painesville is the next city close to Monrovia. Monrovia itself is about 1.1 million in population, and Painesville is 800,000 in population. Combined, there are 1.9 million people living in Monrovia and Painesville. Open burning is prevalent due to inadequate waste collection in these two cities, contributing to health issues, air pollution, and climate change. This project aligns with Liberia's nationally determined contribution, National Solid Waste Management Policy, and the ARREST Agenda for Inclusive Development. The core objectives of this project are to assess black carbon emissions and co-benefits, health, gender, and socioeconomic, develop strategies and tools for emission reduction, build capacity through training and stakeholder engagement, and promote community awareness. Next. The project, most importantly, there's a lot going on in the project, but most importantly, the project aims to establish a black carbon inventory, monitoring, reporting, and verification systems for data collection, storage, and sharing that will validate the project actions and aims. In Liberia, a lot of the challenges have come from poor data. We lack a lot of data. So this project aims to really strengthen our data collection capacity. And for the first time in Liberia, we have done black carbon emissions assessment. So this is a very historic for Liberia. The project really aims to strengthen our data collection capacity. With the Environmental Protection Agency being the lead institution, and in collaboration with various ministries, agencies, and commissions, particularly the Monrovia City Corporation and the Painesville City Corporation, the project, excuse me. Sorry for the background noise. The cornerstone of this project is to develop a national waste management strategy. We will take into consideration existing laws, policy regulations, and comprehensive black carbon assessment for Monrovia and Painesville to inform actionable and replicable policy recommendations. The project development and implementation prioritizes inclusivity through conducting gender analysis to understand the differential impacts of emissions on their health and livelihoods. Finally, the project's commitment extends to building capacity, technical capacity through training in black carbon emission inventory using internationally recognized models to ensure a successful mainstreaming of the strategies into all sectors. Next. Yes, we have several outputs for this project, but I'll highlight a few. One is the National Waste Management Strategy I just spoke about. A second one is the Black Carbon Assessment, the first time in the history of Liberia for that to be done. We're also training private sector actors and national authorities on inventory and monitoring, reporting, and verification. And we also have a baseline for black carbon emissions for Monrovia and Painesville. I will disclose that shortly. Next slide. Okay. Key achievements. Black Carbon Assessment Report. The Black Carbon Assessment was done in April of last year, using surveys, GIS mapping, desk studies, and field measurements to quantify black carbon emissions from open burning. Overall, 95% of respondents observed open burning, 88% in Monrovia and 100% in Painesville, mainly at dump sites and backyards. 50% of respondents in Monrovia report infrequent collection by the Monrovia City Corporation. 79% in Painesville report no collection by Painesville City Corporation. Garbage often exposed for over a week, leading to open burning. So the main cause of open burning is poor frequency of collection by the city corporations. They have their various challenges, including logistics. Now, the sources of waste: domestic waste, plastics, 11%, combustibles, 14%, organics, 43%. Daily waste generation exceeds capacity. 158,278 tons in Monrovia and 88,766 tons in Painesville. That's as per a 2018 baseline. And that's daily generation of waste. Awareness of black carbon emissions and the risk of open burning is low. Most people are not aware of what black carbon is and how dangerous open burning is to their health. Our recommendations: enhance waste infrastructure, bins, frequent collection, enforce bans on open burning, upgrade dump sites to engineered sanitary landfills to prevent unmanaged fires, and also methane emissions, and also educate communities. In comparison to the global numbers, the observation of open burning in Liberia is 94%. Globally is 26 in residential burning. So that should tell you that compared to the global numbers, Liberia's situation is very serious. Next slide. These are photographs of open waste being left in the streets of Monrovia and Painesville, which will eventually be burned, leading to open burning and black carbon emissions. Next slide, please. Okay. Another achievement is the co-benefits analysis, health impact and gender analysis. Analyze health, social, economic, and gender co-benefits of reducing black carbon emissions based on over 90 surveys, 4 focus group discussions, and 8 key informant interviews. People reported symptoms such as coughing, respiratory issues, 36% in Monrovia, 32% in Painesville, eye irritation, 14% in Monrovia, 16% in Painesville, headaches. Also, sources include cooking with charcoal, wood, identified as key black carbon contributor, air pollution from open burning, obviously. The severity, 64% view black carbon as very serious for health and environment. And obviously that's after the implications on health was revealed to them. Next slide, please. Gender analysis. From our findings, women generate more organic waste from cooking and market activities. In the markets, women are mainly the market sellers, where people buy their food in Monrovia and Painesville. Women handle fee collection because different marketeers generate waste. So they have to collect money and pay people to dispose the waste for them. So men manage physical disposal. Women often intentionally or unintentionally start fires when the waste is not collected frequently. Challenges: women are at the forefront but underrepresented in physical roles. Socioeconomic benefits: once the black carbon is reduced, open burning is reduced, these activities will create jobs, disease outbreaks will be reduced, and livelihoods will be supported particularly when it comes to composting organic waste for farmers. Recommendations: gender inclusive education, health studies, and partnerships, working with the EPA and the Ministry of Health. Next slide, please. Black carbon baseline established for 2023. Okay, so using the suite form, we were able to, the suite form is a solid waste emissions estimation tool. We use this form to capture the baseline for black carbon in Monrovia and Painesville. We had to use the information from 2023 because that year we observed had the most data. So we decided to use 2023 information. So our baseline is based on the year 2023. In Monrovia, 54,140 metric tons of black carbon emissions annually, higher due to population density. In Painesville, 36,707 metric tons of black carbon emissions annually, but lower than Monrovia despite larger land area. The methodology, as I mentioned, is the suite form, validated by key sector stakeholders like the Monrovia City Corporation, Painesville City Corporation, private sector groups, and the Environmental Protection Agency. Next slide, please. Okay, we've been able to develop a communication strategy which will be rolled out in February. We've been gathering information about our target audiences, including informal settlements, youth, market women, the media, the Monrovia City Corporation, Painesville City Corporation, and the Environmental Protection Agency. We are rolling out some messages that we'll use, such as the fact that open burning threatens families' health. We're using slogans such as "Be a clean air hero," "Bin it, don't burn it." We'll be using radio talk shows, jingles, billboards, and social media to get our messages out. We'll also be promoting affordable micro collection models to directly reduce backyard dump site burning. We want to go house to house to talk to people about the city ordinances, which we're happy to announce that in Painesville, there is a city ordinance against open burning of waste, and the fee, once caught doing open burning, is 50 United States dollars that the individual would pay, and the second time it will be $100. So it's some progress being made to curtail open burning. And these are the messages we'll be carrying house to house to residents in Monrovia and Painesville when we roll out our awareness campaign in February. Next, please. Okay. Another achievement is the reinstatement of the Waste Sector Technical Working Group. This group is a group of stakeholders, including EPA, the Monrovia City Corporation, the Painesville City Corporation, the National Association of Community-Based Enterprises, the Liberian Solid Waste Management Association, the Water, Sanitation, and Hygiene Commission. We all gather, we're about 25 in membership. We are the main group now steering the affairs when it comes to collective waste management, development, and implementation. This group was originally established under a previous project sponsored by the Climate and Clean Air Coalition, which was targeting methane. And after some time, meetings were not too frequent, but under this project, we've managed to revive this group, and we're now meeting regularly. So far, we have validated the TOR of the working group. We validated the Black Carbon Assessment Report and the baseline that I just spoke about. We've also been able to develop and draft the National Waste Management Strategy, which is pending further reviews by other national stakeholders. And we're also planning more training activities in the coming months. Next slide, please. As I spoke about the National Waste Management Strategy, which is in draft form now. The main goal of this strategy is by 2030, 80% reduction in incidents of open burning. I know it's a pretty lofty goal, but we plan to achieve it, and also 50% emission reductions in black carbon. Yes. It requires funding, and it requires political will, and hopefully we will push for those things as much as we can under this project and continue to work with the sector to make sure that this strategy is implemented even beyond this project. The pillars are prevention and minimization of open burning, campaigns against single-use plastics, encourage small-scale composting, collection and segregation, micro franchises, what we call material recovery facilities. Liberia only has one landfill, which is called Wayne Town. And as we speak, the World Bank is working to support another landfill in a place called Cheesemanburg. So one of our main problems is the fact that we don't have enough landfills to dispose of our waste. And the issue of poor logistics to collect waste is also something that's really hurting us. So we really need to upgrade our landfills. We need to implement bans on open burning. I spoke about city ordinances that are being issued already, which is a glimmer of hope. Also, we're going to do a phased roadmap and have a serious M&E framework with indicators for emissions, jobs, and health. And most importantly, as I mentioned before, we need funding. Next slide, please. Okay, I mentioned the capacity building we've been doing with the suite training and developing waste industries such as recycling and composting. We train stakeholders on the suite form for black carbon inventory, apply to baselines, focus on data adjustments and emissions factors. We train SMEs and CBEs also. The outcomes to build capacity for 300 waste collectors, support industries, and emphasize gender inclusion and job creation. The impact is to enable, strengthen ongoing monitoring, foster green livelihoods, and private sector involvement. Next slide, please. Okay, in conclusion, the progress we've made is we've had this black carbon assessment validated, baselines also validated. So we have the baseline for Monrovia and Painesville validated. For the first time in Liberia, we have data on black carbon emissions. We have the National Waste Management Strategy drafted to be validated very soon before the end of the project. And we're starting to build the capacity of national experts and the private sector. The challenges remain data gaps, institutional overlaps, low awareness, and funding, especially for waste management infrastructure. Next step is to finalize, validate, and launch the strategy, scale up training, develop the monitoring, reporting, and verification framework, and integrate it into Liberia's nationally determined contribution, and expand the pilot in other counties of Liberia, because for now, when I speak of Monrovia and Painesville, I'm only speaking of Montserrado County, which is one county out of 15 counties. So we hope perhaps in future, we can get some support to expand the work we're doing in Monrovia and Painesville, which is Montserrado County, into other counties, the other 14 counties of Liberia, to properly manage waste, reduce open burning, and reduce the emission of black carbon and other harmful gases into the atmosphere. Next slide. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you so much, Darius, for this presentation. Really interesting to hear the results of this baseline assessment that was carried out, and really looking forward to hearing more updates about this project. So I think we have Mike on the line now. So Mike, if you can, please take the floor and give us an overview of the project STOP that was implemented in Indonesia, and which is actually one of the success stories that we are highlighting in the AQMx guidance. So Mike, you are welcome to take the floor, and just let me know if you want me to share your slides.
Yeah, please. Can you share? Can you do so, please? Thank you.
Yeah, will do.
Firstly, many apologies for being late. I very shamefully got the hour wrong. Moving between Bali and Jakarta, I completely messed up the difference in time zones. So my fault entirely. So I will be very quick and quickly run through things. If you have further questions, I'm delighted to answer any emails or have a chat later on. So, excuse me. First of all, I'm pleased if you can just. We're going to talk about a holistic approach that we use to address open waste burning in Banyuwangi in Indonesia. So perhaps you could just scroll down to the next slide, please. Okay, so I'm just going to quickly introduce Project STOP. So this program, which was funded by RAX, was part of a bigger and ongoing program which is rolling out waste services. So Project STOP has worked in, well, I'll show you where it's worked second, but it has 4 key objectives. First of all, to stop waste leaking into the environment. Second, increase recycling of plastics. Third, provide local green jobs. And 4, economically sustainable. And by the latest kind of audited figures we have, were for Q3 2025, so providing almost 700,000 people with access to waste collection, over 270 jobs created, almost 95,000 tons of waste. By now, hopefully, I think the December figures should be coming in shortly, and we'll be over 100,000. So that's us. We've been going since 2017, and just scroll down to the next slide, please. Okay, so we've brought circular waste collection we've worked in around 50 villages in Java and Bali with different models. I'm not going to spend too much time, but started off working at village level in Muncar, which is in the extreme east end of Java. That island that you can see down there below is Java, in part of Indonesia. We also worked at the Kacamatan, sort of borough or sub-regional level in Pasuruan, Jembrana, and handed over 3 systems there mid-2023. If you can scroll on to the next slide, please. We are now working in Banyuwangi, so it's aiming to be the first Regency-wide waste system in Indonesia, providing access to ultimately 1.4 million people. We have completed phase 1, that's 250,000 people. We are ongoing with phase 2. That's the building of a second TPST and providing access to another 250,000 people. And then finally, phase 3 will be 850,000 people. And so that's the yeah, that's what we're up to at the moment. So that's the kind of context. And so next slide, please. Okay, and just about our approach, it's about kind of system change. So really setting up, doing, you know, there's everything, setting up a waste system, including the governance behind it, as well as obviously behaviour change campaigns, working with local public health, which is important, obviously the open burning message, putting in infrastructure and so forth. So a lot of the work is around village regency level regulation and so forth. So next slide, please. Okay, so as we were, hearing in Indonesia, open waste burning and dumping are the prime routes to self-waste management, and open burning is the largest. So if we look at about 60% of the waste is not collected, then around 2/3 with 3/4, can't do my maths, but around 3/4 of the waste that is not collected is openly burned. So it is much bigger actually than leakage into the seas, which was actually originally the driver behind Project Stop and a lot of other similar kind of programs. So open burning is massive. It's how most people manage their waste if they don't have a waste collection. Next slide, please. And this evidence is replicated in Banyuwangi, where around half of unmanaged waste is openly burned. And I think that is a conservative estimate, I must say. And so why do people burn their waste? Next slide, please. We have, again, we've got numerous bits of grey literature kind of giving us the evidence for this, but we had done baseline studies, baseline attitudinal studies, we've done willingness to pay studies in Banyuwangi and other places. And we also have regular village focus groups. We have lots and lots of opportunities to talk to people about why they manage the waste in the way that they do. But essentially, it's convenience. It's the easiest thing to do. There's a lack of alternative. The waste isn't collected, and it's also no one sees it as a problem. It's a lack of awareness of negative health impacts. It becomes normalized. Everyone else is doing it, and this is two sides of the same coin, rightly. Because it's normalized, it is seen as a complete no-go area to enforce. Why would you enforce something that most people are doing? Okay, so, and by politicians who don't want to go anywhere near it, they think, oh my goodness, I'm gonna have riots in my hand if I stop stopping people doing this. I've got much bigger issues in my hand, etc., etc. So very much normalized is what people do. Okay, so how to address it? Next slide, please. Okay, so we sat there and working with our local partners, put together a kind of brainstormed how to address this, and we came up with this approach which looks at policy setup, also behaviour change and engaging villages to particularly focus on open burning. Step 3, you cannot get away from this. People are burning their waste because there's nothing else to do with it. So providing a waste service is absolutely key. Okay, and if we didn't do that, everything else would be, much less meaningful. Step 4, focusing on places that are particular hotspot areas for burning and closing them. And that's step 5. So using open burning as a priority, okay, to say, right, we're going to start giving these people the waste services first, which was a novel approach. And also saying, making it physically harder for people to get to the open burning hotspots. So closing these down, I'll talk to you just quickly about that in a second. So that was the approach. So step 1, let's just have a quick look at the policy. Step 1, next slide, please. So next, if we looked at, there are regency, which is regency is the equivalent of a county or a state in Indonesia, and also village level. And so looking at every level, what is the existing, apologies, it's called for behind me if you can, if the noise is being slightly interfered with at the moment. There are national level laws, but they were mainly observed in the breach. The regency level, we actually, as you can see by the date on them, were introduced as we sat there and addressed it, and we had huge buy-in from the Regency. And then working villages, as we roll out waste services, you approach a village to say, do you want a waste service? Okay, if you do, This is the kind of the laws that will go around them. Yes, we set them up. They also become part of the PICS, which is this service agreement between the village and the Regency operators to say we'll be working to avoid open waste burning. So at all levels, there's national, there's Regency in the village, all the way down to essentially almost the householder within their house. So that was the policy set up to make sure that behind it, we could do what we needed to do. Next step, please. Next slide, please. Village activation, making sure that people are aware, people are interested, people are concerned, and we would work in the villages where people have said this is a big issue, it's something we're worried about. We also work with Dinkers, which is the Dinas Kesehatan, so the local public health outreach ministry, and they have started actually using open burning as part of their triggering approach. So, you know, sitting around the community, actually safely and carefully burning a little bit of sample waste and saying, "Can you smell that? We smell that smell every day. Well, these are the issues. This is what it's doing for you. So, you know, what can we do to essentially get rid of that smell?" So, developing triggering approaches, working with communities that have said this is a problem, and also allowing people to talk frankly about it. Say, yeah, it's something I've done for years. I never realized it was harming. You know, we're not trying to embarrass or shame people. We're just trying to say, look, this is something that needs to stop. Here's an alternative. Let's move forward. Next slide, please. Making sure that waste service is there. Okay, so we've talked about, you know, why open burning is a problem in your community. What are we going to do about it? Well, actually, in 3 weeks' time, we're going to be starting a waste collection. This is the alternative. Okay, you put the waste in the containers, you segregate it, we collect it, off it goes. We don't have to think about open burning of waste anymore. Obviously, easy to say, but obviously a massive amount of investment and organisation behind that. Next slide, please. Steps, yeah, so hotspot selection, obviously doing village walks with communities, saying where is the problem. You start literally from when we were, typically we do a lot of community engagement focus groups anyway, and where people are saying, oh yes, around the corner down here, this is where a lot of waste burning is. Map it out with the communities, okay, and then start talking about, well, you know, are these areas that we could close down? And often local landowners would be very, very keen. You know, you'd have a farmer who's saying, I'm just tired of people burning their waste in my field and ruining my land. It's something that, you know, I wanted to address for years. Great, can you help me do so? So hotspot selection there. Next slide, please. And then physical closure. So putting banners to say, you know, there's an alternative. Actually, even putting things like physical planters, big concrete planters with some nice flowers in, to make it, just try and tip the balance of convenience, to say to people, you know, as a community, we're now moving on, often doing cleanups as well. So you can see up there, there's a skip as the material is cleaned up. Occasionally actually use putting skip bins in there. So rather, if people are bringing their waste there to dump and burn it, they can then put it in the skip, which will then get collected by the new waste. So trying to say to people, you know, this is something that's no longer going to be happening in this place. Next slide, please. And so initially we closed open dumping and burning hotspots in 10 sites. I mean, this is now part of the program, and we've rolled out to another 20 or 30 villages since we were doing the pilot, and it's a standard part of the package. With this particular place where open burning happens, they're closed down as part of the packages one rolls out into the village. Next slide, please. Okay, so what works here? Government buy-in is, I mean, government buy-in is the key thing to anything and everything that we do. I think it's very important as an outside agency to understand the limitations of your agency and what you can and cannot do. And it's only government that can pass legislation and enforce it. Okay, that is obviously, you know, working at government at every level. So starting at the villages and working upwards, making sure that the villages are able to, you know, manage and talk about their own issues, and as well as, you know, we talked about the community cadres. These are people, if you look at the top right there, these are people from within the community who are often given a kind of semi-official public health or you know, community role, and these will be people who are kind of leading the conversation there. And I think that is everything. And so I realized that was really fast. Apologies for. We have some guidelines. Please visit stopoceanplastics.com. It's there. Feel free. It's in Bahasa Indonesia and English. I would be more than happy to take any questions. I think we're probably running out of time now, but if you ever want to email me, it's mike.webster@systemic.earth. Thank you for your time and sorry for being late.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you so much for joining us. Yes, and I really encourage all participants to have a look at the guidelines for the eradication of open waste burning. This is really a great resource for practitioners, something that we have highlighted as well as a key supporting resource on the AQMx guidance. So I know we're running a little behind schedule, but if that's okay for our speakers, maybe we can take some time to address any questions from participants. And I also want to highlight that we have sent a poll in the chat where you can tell us about your suggestions and priorities in terms of additional content or topics that we could address through AQMx. Looking at the results, we have quite a lot of interest on behavioral change strategies to address open waste burning, so that's very good to note. Yes, and I see we have a hand up from Asani, so please go ahead.
Hello, good
Asani.
afternoon.
Yes, good afternoon.
All right. Sir. My name is Asani Olumide. I'm, speaking from Nigeria. My question is to the presenter. You've spoken a lot about, open waste burning. How about, is it possible to centralize some of these things and look at, gas capturing system or something? Is it possible? I'm just being curious. Hello? Hello?
Are you talking to me?
Yes, exactly.
Well,
I said,
yeah.
Open waste burning.
So I mean, so look,
is it possible
the material that
sure. Capture or something?
Yeah, no, sure. Look, I mean, the material that is burnt is a mixture of, there's non-organic and organic. Sure, you can separate organic and put it into an anaerobic digester, I guess, which is what you're talking about, and get off biogas. That is that's an option. I think, we are in a situation where, and what I guess one could roll out, biodigesters across different villages and so forth. That's one approach. However, that would still not address the non-organic material that is being produced. So, I think one of the things reason that open waste burning is an issue now in perhaps a way that it wasn't, 50 years ago is the presence of things like lots of plastic in the waste stream. And, it's that is why it makes it so toxic. That is why, frankly, people do it, because actually, you've got material which is essentially refined oil and is easy to burn. So, look, I mean, that issue I think would remain. Look, I mean, whatever you do with the waste, the point is it needs to be picked up and dealt with somewhat. Somehow it needs to be either contained, ideally, segregated and valorized. But the point is, it needs to be collected. And I think, certainly, that is step number one. I think. If there are other ways of doing things that are better with it and less harmful than just burning it, yeah, all ears.
All right, thank you.
Lucy, did you want to react as well? Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah. Just to jump in really briefly to say that, of course, you'll probably be able to see that waste may be burned at landfills, and sometimes there are spontaneous fires there, or people at landfills might burn waste there deliberately to make it easier to access some of the materials for recyclables, and that is a horrible situation in terms of all kinds of factors and the health and safety of everybody who's working at those sites. But actually, in a lot of places, you may find that the majority of waste burning is not happening at that landfill site. It's happening in neighborhoods. And so solutions that might involve capturing a gas or something would only be suitable if you had at a landfill situation, which might mean that you're spending a lot of capital on something which isn't addressing the majority of the problem, which might not even be happening at that landfill, although that might look the most obvious thing, because the other places where waste is being burned are so much more dispersed. So really, the fundamental thing is to try to reduce the amount of waste that's going to the landfill in the first place by really increasing the kind of circular economy and recycling, which will mean you don't have these issues to deal with in the first place, or not to the same extent.
Thank you, Lucy. Thank you, Mike. Any other question from participants? Please just raise your hand. Right, so I don't see any question in the chat. Oh, yes, Margaret, please go ahead.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for the presentation. I've been sitting and listening, and I think there are similar problems when it comes to the black carbon activities, and awareness is one of our serious problems that we have, because actually people don't know the effects of open burning. And when one of the presenters, Barol, he talked about the activities that we can be able to undertake to help curb this issue. But I think one major thing we need to do is an alternative, is to be able to get alternatives. If we are telling people not to burn, we need to be able to help them clear the way so that they don't have any issues with burning. So I think the core issue here is finding the alternative. What is it that they need to do to be able to curb this? So we can do, we can behavioral change, but then what is it that's going to be there to help them to support this is the action that's going to be put in place. And I think it's the means by which we can be able to collect the wastes. If there's a possibility where inhabitants can be able to do maybe sorting of waste or separation of waste, so that we can have relevant CBEs, because we have the CBEs here, or CBOs, who can be able to do that. And I think one of the major things we need to do is, a major stakeholder also is the community leaders. They need to be aware of these things so that we can put system in place that they can be able to look at and be able to work with the communities to make sure they can be able to achieve this, because this is a serious issue. Open burning, even at the levels of government institutions, they don't even understand these things, and these things are working. Some agencies, they are happening here. And it's really serious, because we know that this is, giving up negatives to the environment. So we need to be able to help this, to reduce this. And I want to say thanks for this webinar. I hope that we can have more of such. And I'm actually rooting for the awareness and action to be put in place to be able to curb this. Thank you.
Thank you, Margaret. Any reactions from our speakers on the importance of awareness raising and providing practical alternatives to households?
I mean, I'll just quickly, yeah, absolutely. I mean, there is alternatives. Yeah, ideally this stuff wouldn't exist in the first place. But in terms of, we are where we are, and picking up the material, and just provide, for me, open waste burning is another reason to have solid waste collections. Why everyone needs them. They're a basic thing the world needs. Ideally, we wouldn't produce any waste, but we do. Frankly, it's growing. So yeah, it's the first step. I think awareness is huge, and I mean, it would not only stop people taking the action straight off, but I think it may increase public pressure for formalized waste services, and denormalize the open burning of waste as well. So if your neighbour saw you doing it, or vice versa, they'd say, "Hey, what are you doing? We're polluting our air." So yeah, more awareness, I think, is a hugely important thing.
And I see that we have another hand from Arthur. Please go ahead.
Thank you so much, Juliet. First of all, let me say thank you. Greetings from Liberia to our partners and Happy New Year. All right. It's a pleasure being part of this webinar meeting on open burning. I deeply appreciate Margaret, our partner from EPA, who were able to flag two very important things that we need to angle on is the awareness and the alternatives. We have our CBEs who are doing door-to-door waste collection. And what happened there is that these guys are struggling. They are doing hand-to-mouth kind of business. And we need to see how best we can be able to empower them to be able to move into the communities, to work along with community leaders. And one of the things I want to suggest, there is something they call incentives. To incentivize the CBEs so that they can be able to move into those communities after the awareness is good, but the alternative, I believe, is to ensure that we have our CBEs moving from door to door, community to community, removing waste and carrying it to the appropriate areas. So I just want us to see how we can take in that direction and see how we can support in that direction, not just the awareness aspect, but those who are on the ground. How can we help them? How can we strengthen them so that they can be capacitated to be able to move from door to door, that every home will be able to be reached and the waste can be collected so that they will not be able to put fire on them. So thank you ever so much.
Thank you, Arthur. Lucy, any reaction on this question of incentives that we could provide?
I think it's. I absolutely appreciate that it can be very difficult for small businesses to really get onto a good footing. It's not that people say waste is wealth, but it's not that easy to make a really good financial business, because actually there are costs involved in waste management. So, but also there are increasingly new ways of getting additional finances into the waste sector from the people who are causing some of the pollution, the companies that are producing different, all kinds of additional packaging, and actually ought to be responsible for the collection of that after it's been used by people. So there is potential for new sources of additional waste finance from national governments or from extended producer responsibility schemes. Although they're still in early days of really trying to get that money down to the local level of communities that need it. There are some good examples from that of actually getting that finance down to that level so that there's greater incentives and the businesses can work better. And there are some examples of that in the financing section in the guidance.
Right, so maybe in the interest of time, we can take last one question, and I see that Theodore, you have your hand up. Please go ahead.
Okay, good morning, good afternoon. I'm Theodore Lemas. I'm the Secretary General for National Association of Primary Waste Communities Enterprises, which we refer to as CB. My attention has been drawn to the issue of the open burning. And the open burning that So first of all, we say Baron, thank you, because they are organized so many capacity buildings and event in it, which he taught us how to use the sheet to check on the waste. We come on the word transportation. Thank you, thank you so much. So my colleague just brought on the issue of the capacity for cities. One of the things that we're struggling on is not like we had a technician, we had a empower, but what we're struggling on is capacity and that infrastructure. Now, as we speak, the whole city of Monrovia had 2 transfer stations, and the whole Liberia had 1 landfill site. So it is allowing to manage those here to show that everybody fits within the plan and strategy that this infrastructure how to be improved. And we should be able to encourage recycling, material recovery, and composting. If that is done, definitely we will tackle the cooking brain. But other than that, we our effort will not be seen. So I will appeal to the functions of the international community. If there's anything on need for empowerment, we should consider recycling, composting, infrastructure, significant capacity that can be Thank you so much.
Thank you, Theodore. Point well taken. Any immediate reaction from speakers? Otherwise, I think in the interest of time, I'll just conclude very quickly to let you know that the last event of the AQMx webinar series will take place next week on Thursday. So we'll be discussing the sectoral guidance on agriculture, looking at alternatives to crop residue burning. And if you are interested in previous event where we discussed fuel quality improvement and expanding access to e-cooking, you'll find the recordings and presentations on the CCAC website. And also to let all participants know that we have an AQMx focus group that you can join. You'll be able to contribute to the development of new content, new functionalities for the platform. So I really encourage all interested participants to join. If you scan this QR code, you'll be directed to a very short registration form. So we're looking forward to hearing from you. And with that, thank you again, everyone. Thank you to our great speaker. Thank you to participants. And I wish you a very good rest of your day. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Great session.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you.